Well, just think about what it has done to divide us today. See, I never knew a redneck was such a bad thing. When I came south and I found out and folks was arguing with me about, oh, it's a sunburn on the back of the neck. Well, I didn't want to get into an argument. And let me tell you, I talk with a southern accent because I went to all my schooling down here. I love the South. I love the traditions of the South. I love the genteel hospitality. And a lot of the good old boys out there that are called redneck are good old boys. They work and they care and they have compassion about other folk. I think that the ones that have the truly bad name make it bad on everybody else. And how I know this is because I thought, okay, let's just make this Facebook page. Let's just see what the water's like. Let me dip my toe out there and see how it is. And what I found from most emails and most conversation is that people were just streaming to us saying, by God, I've been called a redneck all my life. Out of my own ignorance, I was very offended by it a lot of time. And I want to thank you for educating me on this, because now I can be glad when someone calls me a redneck and say, that's right, I'm a redneck. Because, see, what happened for Jeana Brown was when Wisconsin stood up, and Wisconsin wanted to recall that governor.
Yeah.
I said to myself, now, in the South, we don't have a labor identity. We don't have a Southern strategy. Now, if I can tie my red bandana on, and at the state committee meeting for the Democratic Party of Georgia, I sat so very pleased and happy up in there and wore my red bandana. Because in all actuality, what I'm saying to the folks in Wisconsin, Ohio, Florida, the teachers, firemen, all the folks that are under the slot of these Republican austerity cuts, we're standing with you in the South. We might be right to work states, but we know right from wrong. And we also know that a message of unity is what's going to bring a healing to this nation. Grandmother told me during the Depression, folks didn't sit around and blame everybody else. They would pull their boots on, go out in the field and pull the field for this one, and then go over and help that one. And if they could volunteer, they'd volunteer, and then eventually they'd get a job. And see, today, all of us are somewhat discombobulated. We're running around taking care of self and get so tired we get home and we can't even, do anything extra. And here I am unemployed. I'm drawing unemployment. But what compelled my heart to action? It was the stories I was told as a child that there could be unity between black, white, and immigrant. I said, that is exactly what we're going through now, blaming the immigrant. And see, what happened back in those days, those men decided upon themselves they would be a brother's keeper. They read the Bible, and they knew that they had to walk shoulder to shoulder forward to bring this nation forward and level the playing field for folk. So I tell them all the time, see, when my great-grandfather was 10 years old and went into the mine, there was no public schools. That was just 90 years ago. We cannot forget this and go back. And kids today, they don't know the stories.
No.
And that right there is what compelled my heart to action. And you know what? I tell you, the response has been overwhelmingly positive, overwhelmingly. And just think for just a minute, if they wanted to maim a hillbilly or a mountaineer, and how would they maim a poor white man? To keep that illusion of separatism is an ancient prison house. It keeps us in chains. And we have got to come together as people and see that they have devalued good human beings by labeling them. And what we need to do as a nation is step back up. We don't need 9/11 and another terrorist attack. All we need is good common sense and good leadership. And I'm going to tell you something about Zach Lyde. I love that man. I think that is a 72-year-old man who had been preaching the same story I'd been preaching. And here he never knew a white woman was telling the same story he was telling. And one day I heard him talking, and I didn't know that man, but I actually had to catch my breath. I had to sit down, and I almost cried because he sounds like my grandfather. He talks like my grandfather. He's not going to back down. He's not going to take no for an answer. And you know what? When you've got might behind you, you got right and might. They go together.